Hey there, friends. You're listening to the third season of Rev'ing Up. We are intern ministers at the Community Church of New York. And on this show, we talk about the path of ministerial formation, Unitarian Universalist style.
On this season, inspired by the Riddle and Mystery curriculum written by Richard S. Kimball, we're exploring life's big questions.
Where do we come from?
What are we?
Where are we going?
Let's talk about it. Welcome to the journey.
I'm Meagan Henry.
And I'm Carrie McAvoy. And we're
Rev'ing Up.
Hello, and welcome back to the Rev'ing Up podcast. We're so glad you're here listening, watching, and just being a part of our community. We do have an email address, podcast@ccny.org, and we encourage you to reach out. And also, we have our listening group on Rev'ing Up on Facebook, our Facebook group. So check us out there. So we are continuing our exploration of the Riddle and Mystery curriculum, which asks life's big questions. And we're just having tons of fun with this. Our producer extraordinaire, Amy, picks a random number, and we talk about the question on the spot. And Meagan, are you excited for this new question today?
You know, I want to say that I'm excited. And I will be very real with you right now and say that I'm just kind of medium right now. I maybe my excitement will build as we go on. And I think it really just has to do with my day so far and just feeling like I'm just kind of medium. I'm trying to build up to it. Hopefully this is the thing that will be like, I don't know, drinking some caffeine or something. I'm having herbal tea. Maybe I should have had caffeine, but I'm ready to find out what interesting big question that's going to be hard to answer is going to be coming our way from the random number generator. So let's do our drum roll.
Let's get started.
Great. Well, I'd say medium is a pretty good place to be at, Meagan. It could be worse. And let's see if our question will get you any higher than that. Oops, that's one we've already done. Okay. Today's question is, I'm not sure. Meagan. Today's question is, why do bad things happen?
Yeah, that's an important and big question.
Yeah. Why do bad things happen?
So as we've been doing, our pattern is to start with how we would answer the question, should someone come to us with that question.
Yeah.
And then after that, we would talk about how to answer that question given our own theological and moral frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to start off with context, like what is the context of someone asking us that question? The fictitious person next to us on the plane, for instance, or a child in a faith formation class, or someone on their deathbed, or their loved ones. So
yeah, right. Someone has died tragically and too soon, or what is the circumstance? Certainly.
Right.
Well, and also just like what, there are gradations of bad, right? So I think part of the question comes from an wondering also, so what is bad? In what way is this thing bad? Are all things, like if a bad thing happens, is it just bad? If there is some thing also that can be kind of good about it, does that make me a bad person if I can see that, or if I just focus on that instead? I know that certainly with the during the height of quarantine and high infection and death during this COVID pandemic, there was a lot of feelings around for if for someone they're able to work from home and continue their life in a way that it's not really horribly negatively impacted in order to stay home to keep other people safe and keep themselves safe. Like, are they bad? Is that like, am I a bad person for benefiting from the pandemic in some way when so many people are dying? There's a lot to unpack in this kind of a question. And usually it doesn't come as, why do bad things happen? That's not usually the question. Usually the question is, why did this particular bad thing happen?
And this good person sometimes.
Yeah.
Which builds off of the is life fair question that we talked about already.
Right.
Yeah. So and I think perhaps of all of the questions we've covered so far, this one would be the one that I would think would trigger a pastoral response. Like, so why are you asking the question? Like, did something bad happen to someone or to yourself? Or are you trying to make meaning of something that didn't fit your expectations on what life should be? Yeah.
And how does one, pastorally respond appropriately to this, a person who's going through dealing with something bad that has happened in their life? I think that is something that can be really challenging for those of us in the, in the clergy vocation, because it's such a, there's a fine line between thinking that someone might be kind of like leaning on us for something that they really need to be seeing a professional therapist for, right? So as in the pastoral role, kind of understanding that boundary and knowing when, knowing what to say and knowing when to say it and how to be supportive and pastoral, and also helping that person make sure that they get the professional help that they need.
Right. Yeah. I think it would be good to ask additional questions like, well, I would think that if this is a pastoral kind of response needed, there are other questions like, so what was your theology growing up? Like when I'm in a pastoral situation, I try to connect people back to where they've found strength and hope in the past. Try to clarify what happened, how serious is it? Is this really a moment of existential or faith, break with their faith or whatever? I think that when we are, when I have been exposed to difficult things and I try to make sense of it. Like, for instance, my sister got lung cancer. She was totally healthy. And it's like, why would this have happened to her? It just makes no sense. And I want to make sense out of it when perhaps the real need is to just understand that things don't make sense and try to be comfortable with that. But it also depends on the theological perspective that person is coming from.
And humans are such meaning seekers and meaning makers. And so I think that differentiating between something making sense and being able to find meaning in something for ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great way great way to phrase it. They are both of those things.
And I know that one thing that I will never, well, maybe I should never say never, but I expect that one thing that I would not say to someone is that God has a plan.
I would not say that either, even if that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. But I think allowing them to say that if that's where they're comfortable is really important too. You know, I saw a lot of patients in the hospital that for them, that was a really comforting concept, is that I don't know why this is happening to me. And I don't need to know, and I don't have to know, because God has a plan and I'm putting it in God's hands. So as a Unitarian Universalist, person of, you know, going to be ordained clergy, I think that is for me, that's a really important question to tease out for people who are Unitarian Universalists, who might come to me and say, you know, like, what is the equivalent of God has a plan that can bring comfort to someone who doesn't believe that God has a plan, or maybe doesn't believe in that kind of a God, or God at all?
Right.
And that's a challenge, right? That's an interesting kind of that's an interesting theological question and a pastoral question.
Yeah, and it also depends on where that person's social location and their other experiences in their life. Coming at this question as a white, middle class, educated woman, my concept of why something bad would happen might, like when I think about things that have happened in my life when I've really struggled with this question, it's I was getting this question pretty far along in my life, and I've been really privileged to not have been directly affected with death until I was middle-aged. And I know that is not the experience of other people. So coming out of my experience, I have to remember that there are really bad things that happen in the world, and we all struggle to make sense of those kinds of things.
Yeah, and not having had practice with that, I would imagine that would be even more challenging and kind of shocking to deal with something very bad happening when you're, you know, in your middle age, and not having had much experience with it leading up to then. I remember when there was a little girl in my daughter's class at Montessori school it was lower elementary, and this friend got cancer as a child, and it was really hard to go through, because all that those kids had ever heard about cancer was that, like, it is the worst possible thing that could ever happen and you're going to die, right? Like, that's what kids at age like 8 have kind of in their head about, like, cancer is really, really bad and so scary. And then their friend has cancer and they're told at school, and the friend is not there, and the friend is in the hospital, and it's just so scary. And what, you know, I don't know if that there's nothing that can prepare you to deal like better with, you know, things in your life that are happening that are really hard to deal with. But I do think that there are gradations, right? Of, like, I've been through a lot of bad stuff, and I've dealt with bad stuff, and I've made it through the other side. And I know that bad things do happen. And thus far, I've been able to survive it, to get through it, to be resilient, to go through mourning process, to go through all of those processes, and come out on the other side and have reflection and perspective. And I think part of responding to this kind of question, this kind of pastoral need, is to figure out how to balance that perspective without being callous, right? Like, because bad things do happen. And my honest answer is, like, I don't know why. I don't know why bad things happen. I think bad things just happen. And I think that it's like nature and life it's not like there's not moral decisions being made by whether or not there's going to be a hurricane that's going to hit that island. You know, that's in my theological understanding, that's not like God doing that or allowing that, or that's nature. And then you take it another level and it's like, well, yeah, it's also climate chaos. And there are things that are human made that are bad things that are happening because humans are creating the circumstances for bad things to happen. So that could be it could be because of climate, it could be these fires that happen out in the West now so often and so tragically. It could be because of humans creating unjust systems and upholding those unjust systems. And there's bad things are happening because people are being jerks, and or people are being blind, willfully not able to see that an injustice could be changed, or they can't see outside of it, can't see out of that box. So bad things happen for a lot of reasons, and sometimes bad things happen that are bad to us, but it wasn't like, it wouldn't be bad if we weren't giving it that designation, right? Like there could be a big storm and it wouldn't be a bad thing. It's just nature. It's just like there's a storm, but then there are impacts that are bad that affect humans and animals and the environment. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think in a pastoral care situation, I would try to steer them if they're going down that route of saying, well, this happened to me because I'm a bad person, because their theology has been that whether if you're a good person, only good things happen to you, and if you're a bad person, only bad things happen to you. So I would want to try to steer them away from that, and balancing the elements of, you didn't have control over this thing happening, and yet there's some accountability for things that happened that led up to that event. So, and then there's just this release of control, but taking, acknowledging the control that you had over it. Just those two things. Like we're talking about climate change, and there are things that happen as a result of climate change just because of the natural laws governing the way that currents flow and clouds blow, and the Gulf of Mexico is going to have a different situation than the northern Atlantic Ocean, and so there's some patterns. But then there's also this accountability of the human race for putting a bunch of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the environment. So acknowledging I didn't have what I didn't have control over, and what I did have control over, and what I do have control over.
Yeah. And oftentimes what I have control over is myself, my reactions to things, how I handle and process when bad things happen, and helping someone feel empowered to have agency in the situation might be one of the appropriate responses to supporting that person dealing with something bad that's happened.
And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I really don't have a problem saying I don't know. And I think that's been very freeing for me, because like, depending on what the situation is, I literally don't know. And many times we don't know, or we might know some causes or some reasons, but the question, why do bad things happen? Or why did this bad thing happen? That's not, a person generally isn't looking for the actual cause of why did this bad thing happen? So what are they looking for? What are they seeking? What are they searching? What are they needing to process? Helping them identify those things are what I feel like is probably going to be my go-to pastoral response in those situations.
Yeah, that's a big question. Why do bad things happen?
Well, I remember taking it to a much lighter note, but similarly related. When my daughter was very young, we had a long conversation about good luck and bad luck. And she was really trying to figure, like, what does that mean? What is luck? And what is good luck and what is bad luck? And I was, talking to her about everything. She came up with she's like, okay, mama, so if I'm walking and I step into a hole and I fall in a hole, that is bad luck. But then I find my toy in that hole, and that's good luck. So like, yeah, good luck and bad luck. I mean, it's just putting something into the words and the concepts that we understand and can wrap our heads around can be so helpful sometimes.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about luck too. Yeah, it is a weird concept. It's a weird concept. I have nothing else to say beyond that.
Yeah. Well, there's the old good luck, bad luck story about I think it's a folk tale, very, very old. I think that it might have been traced originally to being a Chinese folk tale about an old farmer who has a young son who's like, young adult, maybe 18ish, and they have a farm, and they have horses, and the fence breaks and the horse gets out and runs away, and it's like the neighbor stops by and is like, oh, that's really bad luck, and the father's like, yeah, good luck, bad luck, we'll see. This story. And then the horse comes back. The horse finds gets together with a bunch of wild horses and brings a whole herd of horses back, and they all are hanging out in the on the farm, and they're able to have these horses, which is great because horses are really helpful, and they also, you could sell them and get lots of money. And so the neighbor comes by and it's like, wow, that's really good luck. The farmer's like, oh, good luck, bad luck, we'll see. So the son is riding one of the wild horses, trying to tame it, break it, and make it a rideable horse. And the horse throws him off, and the son breaks his leg, which is disaster on a farm. He can't work anymore. And the neighbor is just like, oh, it's really bad luck. Father says, good luck, bad luck. Who knows? We'll see. And then sure enough, the king sends the soldiers through all of the villages. They're conscripting all of the able-bodied young men to go off into a war where they are sure to die. And the son cannot be conscripted into the army because he has a broken leg. And the neighbor is like, oh, that's really good luck. And the the farmer's like, yep, you never know. Good luck, bad luck. We'll see.
That's a great story. I love that story.
So why do bad things happen? My answer is, in most cases, I don't know. In many cases, humans are not living up to being their best selves in this world and creating a just and loving world. And what do we do about it? Well, we figure out ways to interact with those systems to make things better for ourselves and whoever we can that's around us, and just try to make a better world, starting locally and hoping those ripples go out into the world and make a difference.
Amen. Amen to that. So thank you so much for joining us today and talking about this important question, or listening to us talk about this important question. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Email us at podcast@ccny.org. Engage with us in our Facebook group. Just look for Rev'ing Up. That's 1 V and apostrophe. And thank you so much for being part of this community.
See you soon, friends.
Bye.
Bye.